Alright folks, here we are again with a garden update, but here's the sweet potatoes, and it's about the middle of November now, and we're coming up to a week to Thanksgiving, which means it's time to harvest the sweet potatoes. Now, the vines are still a little green, so typically they start to turn brown, and I know that they're kind of had their season and it's ready to be pulled, but I don't know, they're still green, and but it's time to pull them to see what we got underneath. It's always a surprise on whether we have good or bad harvest, and we've had good, but we'll see. If it all depends on how much sun we've had, how much water, how much nutrients, and what's underneath. So we're going to first pull the leaves out and then start to see what's underneath. So I'm going to pause it here and start clearing some stuff out. Okay, so you can see here that I've pulled out the leaves, and here is what may be in the ground. There's the pile of leaves there. So now it's going to be pulling back some of the mulch and then seeing if there's really sweet potatoes underneath. So I'm going to bag this up and now see what's underneath. Okay folks, so I pulled the irrigation lines out and I'm starting to follow where the plant goes into the ground, and look at what I got so far. Look at this. That is a sweet potato, and it looks like it split off into at least two here so far. So that gives me hope that for each stem that I planted are there sweet potatoes. And I got different varieties this year, Beauregard and some I think a variety like a Georgian variety or something like that. I can't remember now, I should have wrote them down, but it's going to be interesting to see what varieties did good or bad this year. So let me pull that out of the ground, because now I don't know how deep that goes, and I'm holding the camera with one hand and trying to dig it out with the other, so it's a little awkward. So let's see if I can do that here in one shot and make it interesting. Boy, this definitely goes deep. Well, it looks like it cracked a little bit there, as it probably hit a stone or something going down in there. So I'm gonna put the camera down so I can pull that out. Okay. Now with my muddy hands holding the camera, look at that. That's my hand. You can see how long that one started to grow, and then this one, it started to split there, but that's still good. We'll clean that up. But that's a good sign that, hey, at least we got one sweet potato for Thanksgiving. So let me start digging out the others, see what we got. Okay, so all the sweet potatoes are pulled from this I don't know, it's like an 8x3 bed. Now I'll show you the sweet potatoes after I just rinse some of the dirt off of it and everything, and we'll put them in the garage to cure and all that. But kind of some lessons learned here for this. Basically, this variety was not a big variety. It wasn't producing so much big fat sweet potatoes, more longer, slender sweet potatoes. And I had a lot of empty space still in the bed. So what I'm finding is that wherever you put the sweet potato vine, it starts to grow down and maybe widen a little bit, but it's not spreading. So in a sense, as long as you have enough nutrients and stuff in the dirt, you can plant them maybe more densely, because they're growing down and just get wider, thus they're not going to spread, and they don't go too deep either. To be honest with you, wherever that stem is, there's a sweet potato starting to come up out of the ground, and it's just going down deeper. So if you have, like what I have here, about 10 inches of wood, it'll go down there and deeper. So if you have some good dirt, it'll go down. So anyways, I'll show you the sweet potatoes here in a minute. We still have the second bed to do. So this is a new bed here that I've planted. Again, the leaves are green still. So I notice, I'll show you here too, that some of the sweet potatoes I picked out, you see how they were still kind of thin. If we'd still have some warmer weather, or maybe different nutrients or something, these would have grown into bigger sweet potatoes. So while the harvest is okay, you can see that they still had some time to grow if there's still time in the growing season. But now we'll see what's going to be under here, pull these leaves, see what's up. Okay, so the vines are pulled, and we'll see what we have here. So we'll show you in a minute. All right, so as I catch my breath here, I started to take the top mulch off the bed because I always put a nice thick layer of mulch to keep it hydrated. And as I'm doing that, as we know, sweet potatoes aren't growing very deep, right? They're kind of shallow, as you can see wherever the stem was, and I pulled back the mulch, sweet potatoes showing. This one here, it was sitting here, and as I was pulling the vines out, it popped right up. So it almost looks like a beet, doesn't it, that shape? But that's a sweet potato. Now this variety, you can tell this variety is red. And so this is the more traditional one we grow in Texas, the ones that they kind of sell at Lowe's and Home Depot. It's the Beauregard. So we're going to pull these out. You can see that there's a bunch of them just sitting here close to the top. So I'm thinking they're localized to the stem, not very deep, and didn't spread out. So we'll start pulling these out, and you can see. Okay, we're making our headway here, going down. I seem to have a mixture of some of the yellows and some of the reds here. So they've been pretty good so far. I'll show you at the end, but these are kind of the size that we're getting. Look at that. Almost look like the shape of a beet, don't they? You know, and in some ways this reminds me of how they dig out dinosaur bones, isn't it? Hey, there you go. And here's another one here. They're all, you know, this bed isn't as deep as the other one. So, you know, they're growing very shallow. So I don't really have to look for them deep. If they're not at the top, then they're not there. Look at that. So this was a cluster of 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, some of them started to crack. And, you know, you never know when they're done, when they're not done. But this size has been pretty big so far. And I got just a little bit more space here. And I think that's it. So we'll take a look at all of them once we clean them off and get them all side by side. All right, so here's the sweet potatoes that have been pulled out and now side by side. So there's two varieties this year. There's the traditional red ones that we always grow, and they get kind of big. They seem to make one plant, and then, you know, in some cases one large sweet potato, but in other times there's like a cluster of these little ones. But this red variety seems to be a larger variety, whereas this one's a new variety that I haven't grown before. They seem to make, you know, more narrow, deeper, and they seem to have grown in two clusters maybe. And sometimes they get round like that. It just depends. You never know what kind of shape they are. When you go to the store, everything's a uniform shape and size. But when you grow them organically in your own garden, they will take on the different shapes depending on the ground and other things in there. So you just never know. But that's organic gardening. You know, these are as natural and as uncontaminated as you can get. So here's another harvest that we got. You know, it's not the largest harvest, I think, but it's not the smallest. So, you know, every year it's a new experience, and you never know what you're going to get, and you try different things and get hopefully different results. But at least we got sweet potatoes for at least a Thanksgiving meal and a few other meals out of there. So that's our video for the sweet potatoes for this year.